Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to the Step 11 talk of the Steps to Freedom workbook guided tour, if you will. If you haven't seen the previous steps 1 through 10, please go back and watch those before you continue watching this one. The steps were made to be worked in sequential order, so it's really important to proceed in that fashion with it. If you are new to this series, we're, like I said, working on the Steps to Freedom workbook. My goal is to demystify each of the steps to make it as approachable as possible for anybody who is doing a study of the workbook, either for themselves or as a group. This can be a resource to hopefully help you to understand what's the main purpose behind each step, what is the book really trying to get at, and try and give some advice if there's anything that is confusing along the way. So we will jump into today. Just a reminder, as you're watching this, whether it's live or in the future, if you are following along, feel free to, if you have the workbook, crack it open and write anything down as we go along, any reminders for yourself or just anything that makes sense and you want to fill in a blank on a question, just go right ahead and do that while I'm speaking. So step 11, we're working on, this is the second to last step in the 12-step process. So we have currently done, this is our 11th month of doing these talks. There's one that comes out every month. And so this is the second to last one. So yeah, really good on you for anybody who is following this either now or in the future. Congratulations, you are almost there. And just courage and strength for the last couple steps here as we go along. And for anybody who, again, is just kind of looking into these for their own information or kind of because they're curious, I would just really recommend committing to this process. Go for it. It can be a life transformational process. So yeah, give it a try and see what happens. So step 11. Step 11 says, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. And there's a verse that I think goes really well with that step, just a Bible verse that kind of speaks to that, which says, let the word of the Christ dwell in you richly, Colossians 3:16. So really short there, but quite powerful. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly. That's our goal as we go through this step 11. So as a reminder, the word we is used exclusively throughout all of the 12 steps. And the reason for that is because the steps are meant to be worked in community with other people, at least one other person, if not a group of people. So I often talk about the importance of having a sponsor and then having people that will kind of accountability partners and those who are aware of your journey, who can check in with you and motivate you and encourage you. So that's really important. And so that's the word we is always used instead of I. So as a review, in step 10 last month, we began what are known as the maintenance steps, quote unquote. These steps, 10, 11, and 12, are actually vitally important in order to keep growing in the lifestyle that we have adopted, this recovery journey. Sometimes we can think of the word maintenance and think that that's not important in some way, but it's actually vitally important. So just wanted to stress that. The only way for us to keep growing in our recovery is to continually apply and practice the tools and disciplines that we learned in step 1 to 9 in our everyday life. And so step 10, 11, 12 really help us to cement those things in some very key areas. So step 10 specifically was an opportunity to practice humility and to deepen our connection with others, other people around us, by making small but regular amends for the small mistakes that we all make on a daily basis. Step 10 is a foundational reorientation of how we interact with others. And if it's practiced fully, it will lead us to a deepening connection with everybody who we know in our life, especially those who are closest to us. Again, for those who wanted a reminder, step 10 is all about making that time, being humble, being teachable, admitting when we make small mistakes, promptly right away, so that they don't build up and become bigger snowball things that we need to make larger amends for later. We don't want to have any more resentments coming into our life, and so step 10 is the way we do that, by keeping short accounts with others and making amends when things come up that we need to apologize for. So step 11, what's it all about? So step 11 builds on the work of step 10, but is focused on our relationship with our higher power instead of other people. So as a bit of a summary, when we think of it, God's faithfulness, when we think of the Trinitarian God that we believe in as believers, It's God's faithfulness to us, it's Jesus's sacrifice for us, and the Holy Spirit's presence inside us, which is key to our recovery. And we are only getting started in this journey. 1 through 9, we're kind of, cleaning out the dirt, the chaff, making room for a new, fresh start, if you will, in our life. And so step 10, 11, 12 will now kind of help us cement that and learn new practices. And key to that is being involved and regularly in communion with God. So in this step, we establish regular and consistent interaction with our loving and all-powerful God, who is able to carry us throughout the rest of our days and our recovery journeys. So as we did with other people in step 10, we also want to make confession and accountability part of our daily interaction with God. We confess to God the wrongs that we do each day, and we make plans to address these going forward. Again, by making amends to others. Often we're essentially repeating things that we would have said in step 10 to another person. We're repeating that to God. And so it's a way of being accountable to him and being, again, humble and not assuming that we've somehow made this and we're perfect now somehow. We're keeping ourselves humble by admitting to God and to other people our mistakes. So connecting with God is actually so much more than just making amends or apologizing to him. It's so much more than that. Through our times in communion with him, he will remind us of some essential, important truths that we need to know. These truths include our identity in him, the fact that we are his chosen children, that he knew before we were even brought into existence. Other truths include our value as his special creation. All of us were made uniquely with unique gifts and abilities that no other person can replicate. And so that's something that we need to be reminded of by him. And also renewed hope and strength to face each new day. This journey is not easy, and so God gives us that strength and that encouragement to keep going. But we can only get those things if we're continually exposing ourselves to him and allowing him to speak these truths to us. So all of this, along with so much more, is available to us when we make the time to connect with God and allow him to change the narrative of our daily life. For many of us, when we're in addiction, we believe a certain false narrative that tells us that we are worthless, that we're valueless, that we are impossible to save, that it's never going to get any better, all these kinds of things. But God, through his gentle love and care, he can change that narrative for us, as can other people, but God is the true source of that changed narrative. So we have to give him that time to express that to us by listening to him and by spending time in his word. So God has a plan for us, and he has the power to allow us to walk the path that he has put before us. Slowly but surely, God will reveal this plan to us if we stay teachable and if we listen to what he is speaking to us. The road to recovery is a very difficult one. I'm just going to be honest about that. And if we are to succeed in it, we're going to need God's wisdom to guide our steps and his powerful presence to strengthen us in our weaknesses. All of us, depending on where your journey is, however long you've been in this recovery journey, we still have a huge amount of vulnerability. Our sin, returning to our old ways, is usually just, a computer click away or a spare, unguarded comment to another woman who's not our wife away. So we need to be really careful that we don't allow these things to come back, because unfortunately they're just always going to be there as a potential option for us. So we have to continue to put ourselves in a good place in order to resist that. Another way in which step 11 helps us to stay strong in our recovery is by maintaining an attitude of gratitude. When we allow God to speak to and through us, we will inevitably become more appreciative of the blessings that we have in our life. We will shed our jealous and envious hearts in exchange for pure and contented ones, which is something that all of us as addicts need. I know for myself that it was unfortunately all too easy to observe and assume that everything else is greener on the other side of the fence, that other couples have a better perhaps sexual life, or assuming that a different woman who appears more attractive would be a better partner for being with. All these kinds of things. There's these sick assumptions that there's something out there that we just haven't achieved yet that we can get if we allow our sinful selves to take the reins and lead us. But that's not true. So step 11 reminds us, and it makes us more grateful and contented in the things that we do have, and it helps us to appreciate the things that we do have instead of always trying to seek the next high that's going to somehow um, fill all of our needs, which just doesn't exist. So these maintenance steps build on one another, especially 10 and 11. It's pretty easy to see the comparisons there. So these maintenance steps, they build on one another and can create a fulfilling and healthy pattern of existence that will keep us from relapse. So when I start my day with time with God and I end it by doing my daily recovery inventory, I set myself up for success and I am able to live at peace with God and myself. This is an example of how we can live one day at a time and one way that we can prevent further relapse. So you're kind of trying to bookend your day. And not that it has to happen in that exact format. Sometimes our times with God can't be in the morning because we have responsibilities that exist in the morning, or they can't necessarily be in the evening. So whatever that pattern looks like for you, these maintenance steps are just saying that if we include times, opportunities to be making amends to other people and spending time with God, being honest and open with him, these are things that are just foundational things that will keep us in a healthy place in our recovery. So in summary, the goal of step 11 is to establish a regular practice of speaking to and listening to God, allowing him to take our yoke of suffering, of whatever it is that we kind of face day to day. We allow Jesus to take our yoke and seeking his wisdom to guide us towards a brighter future. So step 11 is, it's all about positioning ourselves well before God, admitting that we need his help, and just putting in place disciplines that will foundationally help us and keep us safe in our recovery going forward. So that's an overview of what step 11 is all about. For some specific context or I guess advice regarding how to complete the workbook itself, you'll notice that the book primarily focuses on 1 full month of tracking the times that we spend with God. So it's got 30, blank spaces for 30 different days, and it asks you to write out your prayers and, as it calls, your meditations. So the way that I did this, I didn't exactly actually know what the author meant by the meditations aspect of it, but what I did was in the left column, I wrote down the prayers, things especially that I was asking God for, that I was kind of seeking his wisdom on, or just in some way me communicating to him. And then in the right side line, I kind of use that more as the things that I'm receiving from him. As Christians, I think a lot of us know that we spend way too much talking at God, and we don't spend a great deal of time listening to God. And so for me, I tried to use those two columns as those two separate things. So the left column was the things I'm saying to him, and the right column was the things that I believe I'm hearing from him. So that could be a particular Bible verse that I read that day that I found very impactful, that spoke to me and was communicating truth to me. Or as well, if I had heard something, metaphorically, maybe I had an image in my head that day, or just kind of a word of encouragement from a Bible verse, a memorized thing that was kind of reverberating in my head. Those were things that I put in the right-hand column. So these were encouragements. They were things that God was saying to me, compassionate, voices, or in some cases conviction. If I felt that there was something that was kind of being, God was wanting me to address, that's another thing that I would include in that right-hand column under meditation. So beyond that, after that, I just kind of asked some questions about your experience, creating that discipline of connecting with him. And so you can answer those questions. I felt they were fairly self-explanatory, but it just asks you a few review questions. Once you've done your month, it just asks you some questions about how that went and any kind of observations of how that went for you. So that is mostly all that I have to say about step 11 in the Steps to Freedom workbook. An encouragement again, just to keep going in this process. For anyone who's been tracking up until now, you're very close to being done. And the work that's yet to come is, on the horizon. You can see the end of it, kind of thing. We'll be doing our last step 12 discussion a month from now in January. So again, just keep going. Don't get stuck. Don't feel I will say in the book, there were some days that I missed doing a time with God, at least a direct devotional time. And I was honest and I wrote down I was not able to do that day, right? So be honest, don't just make up stuff and write it down in the box. We're coming at this, it's an honest program. The 12 steps is an honest program, so we don't sugarcoat things. So if you were not able to make time to do so, that's fine. Just admit that and write that down on the list, but do your best, obviously, from there to make sure that you do have those daily times of devotion with God, because that's what the whole step is kind of all about. So encouragement to continue on the journey. Again, I find it's really helpful to share your learnings with a sponsor, with somebody, share the insights that God gives you while doing the steps. And yeah, don't get discouraged, and just continue on this recovery journey. So we'll end that there. Again, look forward to sharing next month with everybody about step 12. So all the best. Prayers are with you as you continue doing the work, and just encouragement for the further journey. So take care.